What's up, y'all? What's good? Welcome to the What Up Doe Show. It's your boy Dame D, and I am back with another one. We will have a few technical difficulties. I'm trying to make sure that we are good now. So let me check and make sure that we are good. So give me 1 second. We will have a few technical difficulties. I'm trying to make sure that we are good now. So let me check and make sure that we are good. Okay, everything looks good. So let me back out of here. We will have a few technical difficulties. I'm trying to make sure check and make sure that we are good. Okay, everything. Okay, so let me go check over here on Facebook. It looked like we are good now. I don't know what the problem was earlier, but I think we may have solved the problem. What's up, y'all? What's good? Welcome to the What Up Doe Show. It's your boy. Okay, so it looked like we may be. What's up, y'all? What's good? Welcome. Okay, so I'm just trying to make sure that we are good before I start the conversation up tonight. What's good, everybody? I'm getting ready to check my audio and video to make sure that. Okay, it looks like we are good. So yeah, I'm gonna let a few people join in. I sent out a few guests, so I'm gonna wait for a few more people to jump on in. And look like we may be good. So you guys tell me, how do we look on your end right now? So I'm gonna wait for few more people to jump in. I'm gonna send out a few more invites, but I think we took care of the situation that was going on. I want to apologize. I got a lot of shit over here that's going on that was causing my, a lot of interference with my streaming. But I think I may have figured that part out. Let me stop this. Every time I say something, one thing always happens, but give me 1 second. Trying to send a few people invites out that I sent to the last time we went live. Sent one out to Real Talk with Big Dave. He should be joining me shortly. But what's going on out there, man? How's everybody Friday going? It's Freestyle Friday tonight. We're gonna have a good conversation, man. Hopefully we have a good conversation with no interference with this Wi-Fi. My Wi-Fi is trying to stop me from doing tonight's show, but I will not let it stop me, you guys. So I just need for you guys to let me know how everything is looking out there. So far it's looking good from what I'm seeing over on YouTube. Well, Facebook, I should say. I'm watching it from Facebook. So yeah, what's up, man? It's Freestyle Friday tonight. Got a few guests coming in. If not, we still gonna have a good time having a conversation. Oh, let me make sure that the comment section is definitely open. I want you guys to comment. I want you guys to interact with tonight's conversation. We're gonna be talking about what's going on with all these blacks dying in the company of their white friends. That's what's been going on, and that's going to be tonight's conversation here on Freestyle Friday tonight. And we're also going to talk about this Nolan Wills autopsy situation. It's been an ongoing situation. And I want to thank all the the podcasters out there that's been keeping all these stories alive, talking about all these situations that's been going on with our people. Too many of our people have been dying under fucked up circumstances. It's almost like we are back in the Jim Crow days. We are seeing people being hung. We are seeing people being drowned in situations like that, and just being found in situations that they normally wouldn't find themselves in. So as you guys come in, let me know how the audio and the video look. We had to end the show earlier because we were having some Wi-Fi interference, some technical difficulties, but it looked like we may have taken care of that situation, So, but yeah, man, I need you guys to like, comment, subscribe, and share. Your boy is we're getting closer and closer to that 1K goal, man. We are I think less than 40 subscribers. If last time I checked, 40 to 50 subscribers away from 1K. And I need for you guys to hit that subscribe button. Today's topic, and I'm waiting on a few of my guests to come in and just waiting on a few more people, to come to the show before I start tonight's conversation. So hopefully everybody is having a great night. Tonight is Friday night. Okay, we got Real Talk with Big Dave getting ready to come to the show. Real Talk with Big Dave. What to do?
What up? I can't hear you.
You can't hear me. I can hear you. I can hear you loud and clear.
Now I can hear you. Is I'm
Okay, I
clear?
turned the
Is I'm
mic up. I
here?
can hear you loud and clear though. Hold
Is
on. Let
I'm
me
clear?
turn it.
Is I'm in the picture
Yeah, you in the picture.
completely?
Yeah. You say what now?
Huh?
I, I see you clearly. I hear you loud and clear. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you, man. It's just making that robot noise off and on.
Oh man. Well, hopefully we clear that up. I had to end the show earlier, man. I was having a few technical difficulties on my end, but hopefully we got this that part taken care of, man. It's Freestyle Friday. Then go on ahead and formally introduce yourself to the show. Before you do that, James Sanders said, "Oh, now that's very clear." Okay, there we go. Now we clear now. I figured it out. I think I figured it out, James. So, but thanks, James, man, for letting me know. Let me know if we fuck back up. But go ahead and introduce yourself again to the show, big dog.
Excuse me?
Go ahead. You can go ahead and formally introduce yourself to the show.
It's Real Talk with Big Dave. What up, though?
There we go. There we go. So, real talk with Big Dave, man. Today's topic, today's conversation, man. We're going to be talking about blacks dying, while in the company, of their so-called white friends, man. We've been. Can you hear me clearly, Dave?
Say that again.
Man, it sounds like you can't. Can you not hear me clear?
I can hear you, but like I said, it's like a robot. You can hear me clear. I don't know why I
Yeah,
can't
I can
hear
hear
you.
you clearly. James, let me know. Can you hear both of us clearly? Because I don't want to be talking and you guys cannot hear us clear. But yeah, man, today's conversation, man, we're going to be talking about this whole Nolan Wells situation and, just what's been going on throughout the country. Big Real Talk with Big Dave. We've been having a lot of our blacks dying, in the company of their white friends, man. Give me your thoughts. Give me your opinion on this, starting off with this Nolan Wells situation, throughout the country. And it's been going on this whole summer. To me, it's almost like it's a ritual. We got to get ahead of this. We see what's going on. So give me your opinions, Dave, on what your thoughts is on what's going on with, blacks just dying in the company of their white friends.
Well, I just did a few shows on the Nolan Wells thing, and this is happening all over the world right now. That blacks are hanging with whites, which I call saltines. They're hanging with them, and they're coming up missing. They're coming up hung, and they're coming up drowned and dead. And nothing's been did about it. The news stations, when they talk about it, it's like they're helping cover it up because it's not their own that's this is happening to. Now, don't get me wrong, all white people don't agree on it, but all it takes is one. And the way they all the stuff that's coming out on Nolan Wells and the way that he was done, that could have been my child, because the first thing I would have said to mine is, how many of your saltine friends are gone? I wouldn't have said saltine to them. I would have said your white friends. And in the minute I knew it was no more black friends going with my child, I would have just had to tell them no.
Yeah, man, and I agree with you, me too. And this is not a coincidence, you guys, what's been going on throughout the country. We have to get everybody, on the same page. This is not a coincidence. We've talked about I can count on both of my hands on how many shows that, I've done just myself, about blacks being murdered or blacks being drowned, when in the company of their so-called white friends, so we have to realize what's going on. I just recently did a show about a 37-year-old man. His name was Lon Hopper. This man was out of he came down to perform at a Michigan festival. I believe it was the Blitz Fest. And this young man, and I just, like I said, I recently did a video. His sister spoke about what happened to this young man, and this young man is still alive. He was luckily, to not find himself in a situation, like Nolan Wells and the rest of the people we're talking about. But this 37-year-old man came down, to perform at this festival, and they found him the next day hanging outside of his tent with his neck barely, almost basically, like the sister explained, cut off. So like I said, man, this is not a coincidence. This has been an ongoing situation. In my opinion, David, it almost seemed like to me like some ritualistic type shit is going on, like we're being sacrificed or something, with all these with all these drownings and these murders that's been going on in the month of July. Give me your thoughts and opinion on that, man. Do you think it's some ritualistic type shit going on, man?
Repeat that part, that last part.
Do you think this is some ritualistic type shit that's going on? You know, because like I said, we've talked about multiple of our people being, you know, drowned and murdered, and some of them being found hung.
Yeah, it's it's starting. It's starting to go too far, man, and it's a shame. And it's happening to our peoples. And the sad thing about the whole thing is bad enough that we are doing things to each other that we shouldn't be doing. That we had to get better with sticking with one another and protecting one another. Because I'm just gonna say something that a lot of people don't want to hear, but I'm just gonna keep it real because that's what I'm about. Real talk with Big Dave. And at the end of the day, blacks got to quit going places they not wanted with these white folks. Let's just keep it real. These three boys that Nolan went with, they planned this attack. When all this was about because he was knocking down white girls because white girls loving him. And it's a video out here that I did on my show that I couldn't show the video, but I showed the audio. I mean, let people hear the audio. And the audio is a white guy saying that his white tees, he very proud of his white tees, meaning white teenagers and white men. He's very proud of them because they're taking their women back and not letting blacks take their women anymore. And he let us know he's carrying faith with him, and this is going to happen all over the nation. So this is a real thing, and we got to wake up.
Oh yeah, for sure, man. You know, and that's one thing that we have to realize that whites do not want us messing around with their women. You know, they will kill, they will do all type of shit to keep us away from their women. You know, so we have to realize that young men are finding themselves like even with the Nolan Wells situation. You know, he found himself amongst hundreds of white men. While fraternizing with their women. You can't be doing that and you're the only lone star out there by yourself. And that's one thing that we need to talk about. We have to stop, especially when we know what's going on throughout this country. Most of these young men and women that have been finding themselves coming up either dead or missing or drowned, they've been pretty much the only lone star surrounded by, a community of white people, and we got to ask ourselves, what's really going on, and once you ask yourself that question, you realize what's going on. We're systematically one by one, being murdered, by these so-called white friends. You know what I mean, Dave? And it's not a coincidence. We've done too many shows about this certain topic, and with this Nolan Wells situation, this has divided the country. This has taken the country by storm, and I want to ask you a question about that. This autopsy report has came back, Real Talk with Big Dave, and it's a lot of unanswered questions. They sent this man's body back to the second examiner without any lungs, without the vocal, the throat, the whole middle section of his throat. So therefore they couldn't even do a full autopsy or investigation on this young man. Give me your thoughts and your opinion on that, man. Why do you think that they sent this young man bodies back with missing body parts that the medical examiner second that they could not do their job correctly?
Well, they trying to hide stuff like they always do. When things like this happen in these towns of Mississippi and places deep in the South, I call them the good old boys, man. And usually these sons always have a judge or a lawyer or somebody in place of power there that can, and half of the people that's in the place of power are kin with each other. And if they're not kin, they're very close with each other in that town, and they know how to make the phone calls to cover things up. And it's a sad shame that his body was destroyed disrespectedly. His body was burned in certain spots. And then I just got some news lately that come to find out he was really hung. And that's probably why his throat was missing.
Yeah, and that's what a lot of people, that's what a lot of allegations is going on. Why wouldn't the medical examiner who originally did the first autopsy, why wouldn't they put in their notes that, they thought it was, that they had to remove the throat, and do further investigation. That's why they did not send, the throat or the lungs. And then not only that, we were thinking that it was going to come back with, accidental drowning or things like that. For them not to send his lungs back, that's kind of telling me that they're trying to cover something up, because if it was water in his lung, why not just release that? So therefore, it must have not been water in this young man's lungs, and he did not die by drowning. Therefore, they're covering up. They're hiding a lot of evidence by not sending back the lungs. And by not sending back the whole his whole throat thing. And I'm gonna read out a few comments. James said, James Sanders 1027 said, doing one side interview with these boys are assuming that they are innocent. Yeah, and I saw that interview that James was talking about. But yeah, from and this is going all the way back from the medical examiner, on down there in Mississippi, man. They're covering up, what happened to this young man, because there's so many videos, and I want to thank all the, YouTubers and podcasters that's been keeping this story alive, man. I've been doing my due diligence, and I want to thank you too, Big Dave, because you've been talking about this story and staying on top of it too. But how could you possibly think that the second autopsy that we can get a clear answer without this young man lungs and this the whole throat trachea and all that stuff not being with the body? Dave, give me your opinion on that.
Well, it's a white boy that came out recently and said, if you don't tell what happened, I will.
Right.
Allegedly, this is what's supposed to be coming out now. And it's supposed to be video out here of these guys with a black body, allegedly, with an
And it
afro.
was, and I saw that video.
And it looks like they're trying to bury him in the sand and hide his body. So, like I said, man, this was a planned attack. He went with these friends. They planned to kill him for him not to make it home. And at the end of the day, when he got there, he was on that island. He was messing with different women. They did not like it. And even the women lied. The women has not been interviewed. The friends have not been interviewed, because they have people in power on their side and telling them what to do.
Right, but I
So,
tell you this one thing for sure: what we know getting ready to go forward is there's getting ready to be they're getting ready to hand this over to the grand jury. So in my opinion, I think there will be some indictments on these friends. I think even some of the parents that had some involving probably will be indicted too, to probably be interrogated or questioned. Because I think that's what's going on, man. They need to get these friends in there, and interrogate these friends. Because at the end of the day, Big Dave, they know what's going on. And like that photo that you were talking about, it's actually it was actually a video, and this video was showing a young black man that was down on the ground in the water, face down. He still was actually kind of moving, but not like he was coherent, and it looked like the white boy that was standing over him, what was either trying to kick him or bury him or something like that. So it's a lot of questionable things out there, because we were in the beginning, we were getting questions like, getting videos like he made it back to land. So, I think with this video, they're trying to throw us off. A lot of this stuff could be Photoshopped. We don't know, they're going to have to go and get their examiners to examine these videos, because I think really now what they're trying to do, Dave, is just throw us off with so much information that's been coming out. So give me your opinion on that, man. Do you think this video can be trusted? Do you think, because clearly it's showing that it's a young black man with an afro that looked like it can be Nolan Wales out there on that ground?
what's sad though? What's
Well,
really sad is the fact in this era and time, no one leaves home or nowhere without their phone.
at all.
People sleeps with their phones. Women take showers with their phone. People go to the toilet with their phone. So the minute someone thinks they don't have a phone or they lost it, man, their heart pulsate. Like they finna have a
Yeah.
heart attack. Like that's their part of their heart. So why wouldn't he have his phone? The only thing that could help protect him.
You know why? I'm gonna be honest, man. And I try to stay biased. You know why he didn't have his phone? Because they took his phone. They did something to this young man, and all the evidence is starting to come out. Stevie Wonder can see, what's going on with all this evidence. Even the medical examiners, in my opinion, they're hiding evidence by not sending all the body parts in his young man bodies for the second autopsy team to be able to do their job. So they couldn't even do their jobs correctly, Dave, because of what the first autopsy team tried to do, what the state's examiner did with the body, and she's already, under scrutiny for mislabeling a lot of black cases like accidental drownings and suicides and things like that when there were clearly murders. So at the end of the day, Dave, it's clearly a setup from the medical examiner all the way down, from the friends, in my opinion.
And you know what's crazy about all this? The transporters transferred his body upside down with his face down, and that's not how they transport a body. It's always face up.
Right.
So it's just very disrespectful how they're all are responding and acting. But you know what's sad? These people got kids too. Where's the humanity? Where is it?
It's none
Where's
when
the
it comes to
care?
Yeah, it's none when it comes to black. Let's talk about this, Dave. It was a situation where and I almost lost my train of thought. And I actually kind of did, but there's no humanity when it comes to us. Because where were these so-called friends looking for this young man's body? I don't believe they were out there involved in any of the search teams. What friends do you know that will not be out there trying to help the search team look for your body? They should have been out there night and day until they found this young man. It took for the parents to actually call the rescue team for them to locate this young man. And that's what the whole title was about. Blacks dying in the company of their white friends. Man, we've talked about many of shows where we had blacks that were hanging out, like the young black woman about a year or so ago. She went over to a sleepover with a friend of she went over to a sleepover, and they had a sleepover in a party with a group of her white friends. They were drinking,
Well,
having a good
actually,
time.
she threw the party and had them come over.
No, I thought she was actually going to visit them, if I'm not mistaken. And she went over. It was a sleepover that was held, and it was pretty much she was the lone star black woman out of the group. And the next day, they found this young woman outside, basically saying that she fell over the balcony and she was intoxicated. And there was no investigation done after that. So we've talked about
And no
multiple
one went to
situations where
jail.
you had black folks hanging out with their white friends and ended up dead. Go ahead, Dave.
No, I said no one went to jail.
No one went to jail over that case. They basically said it was an accidental. This young woman had got drunk and she accidental fell over the balcony and she died.
That's crazy. And you
Yeah.
remember the story a year or so ago? The two young white girls jumped on a 70-something-year-old elderly woman and beat her to death and never got charged.
Well, yeah, it was just I don't know if I don't know if you're talking about the situation that just happened here at not too long ago at Tim Hortons, where you had two white employees that beat a 70-something-year-old black woman to death. She died from the injuries of that.
Yeah, it
Yeah.
just we gotta stop going places alone. We gotta start believing that this is real because we keep seeing it, and blacks need to wake up. I'm sorry. Quit going places and you the only black. And it's 98% white. I'm sorry. And they can call me racist. They can say all that. No, I'm not. I'm just trying. I'm just know certain things you can't and cannot do in this time. And
And,
we
and,
just got to keep it real. You know what I'm saying? We got to quit being naive, thinking it's okay. My brother, my own brother, and don't get me wrong, I got mixed kids, but my own brother, years ago, we was looking for him. We didn't even know he was out of town. And he was on a beach, man. We laugh about it now because nothing happened to him. But he was on a beach and he brought a picture home. This is before cameras technology was like this. He brought a picture home and all you seen was all whites on this. It was at least 100 white people in this picture, and he was the only black in the middle. He looked like a black dot. And I asked him, was he crazy? But thank God nothing happened to him. We laugh at it today, but see, we can't laugh now because it's happening now for real.
Right. Yeah, 100%. And what I do want to talk about, is all these situations where we having blacks that's dying, in the water. We really, I really didn't think it was this bad. I thought it was a stereotype that, that most blacks couldn't swim, because like I said, most of the blacks that I went to high school with and my family members, we all can swim, so we got to get ahead of this, guys. If you know that you can't swim, why would you have your ass out there in water? It was just another, we just had a young man who was just drowned, and these were teenagers. You just had, I believe, two white teenagers who just drowned, I believe, a 13-year-old teenager, out in the lake, and it was a horrible situation, but we're finding ourselves in these situations like out there in the water where, where we're being drowned because we cannot swim. We got to get ahead of that. We talked about this in the show earlier, Dave. Most of the schools here in Detroit, they offer swim classes, so I don't understand where so many black people are not learning how to swim, Dave. Give me your thoughts and your opinion on us just not being able to swim.
Well, see, you got to remember in our era, we had on the east side, we had recreation centers. On the west side, we had recreation centers, and then, like you said, the schools that had swimming pools opened up for us to take lessons. But in these days and time, it's not many recreations and places like that open for our children. You got to pay for your kids to get lessons. See, we got lessons for free today. Like right now, I got my daughter um in goldfish, and this for each session is a half an hour, so it's $30 a session. You start off with 4 sessions, that's 120. If you need more than that, it's $30 a session.
Right.
Now she hasn't even finished the course because her mother had some car problems, but she's situated now, so she's in another camp now. But once she's done with that, she's going to go back because the money, they don't give it back to you, but it's still, she still has points. So we have to pay for that. See,
Yeah.
in our day,
Okay, look like Dave is breaking
people
up.
can't
He went out.
afford that.
Dave,
Okay, you can't hear me.
I can hear you, but you went out. But I can hear you. But yeah, man, why Dave trying to get his situation fixed. But yeah, we got to get ahead of our children not knowing how to swim. We've been caught, we are getting caught in vulnerable situations, and I've never heard so many black people in my lifetime that's been drowning of lately, so we got to do a better job at making sure if we're going to be out there in these waters, out there canoeing, because we just did a story and you talked about this, Dave. It was a and I did this story too. It was a young man. He actually was a police officer who actually went out canoeing with a group of his white friends, and he ended up drowning. He was the only one that did not come back. So we're finding ourselves in these situations with these white friends, especially when we're out in the water. We're finding ourselves not making it back. So we got to get on top of this. So, Dave, give me your thoughts, man. On this whole stereotype that most blacks cannot swim. Okay, look like Dave is having some technicals. I'm gonna bring him out and hopefully he'll be able to come back in. But yeah, that's where a lot of us has been coming up, in these horrible situations this year. A lot of us has been, caught out with these so-called white friends, man, and we've been, losing our lives in this water. Okay, here come Big Dave. But yeah, we got to get ahead of this. We have to be
Is
able to
I'm
put our
back?
kids in these. I can hear you. I can hear you. There you go. And you're back. But yeah, man, we got to get ahead of
Can you
this.
hear
Our
me?
kids, we've been dying in situations where we should be able to swim and get up out of these situations. Go ahead, Big Dave.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Yeah, I don't know what's going on my end. Something just went wrong. You can hear me now,
Yeah,
right?
man, it's not just been your end. It's been your end, my end. We've been having a few technical
Can you see
difficulties.
me?
I
Can you
can
see
see
me?
you. Yep, yep. So
Is
we
I'm
good
all
though,
in the
man. But
picture? Is I'm completely in the picture?
yep, you completely in the picture. Yep. Now you don't went out again. You don't win out. But yeah, man, at the end of the day, we gotta do a better job at making sure that if we allow our children, I mean, not even just the children, even adults, if you can't swim, why put yourself in a situation where you may lose your life, like canoeing or something like that? So at the end of the day, I'm gonna read off a few comments. James Sanders said, way back since the Emmett Till era, and they still haven't changed that in Mississippi and other places. I agree. A lot of the laws, especially down there in Mississippi, are still the same. That's a lot of things that a lot of the people and the judges and the people who pay taxes down there have to get ahead of making sure that these old Jim Crow laws are changed. But yeah, man, at the end of the day, we are losing our lives in the company of these so-called white friends, man. So we have to really realize what's going on. In my opinion, I think we are systematically, one by one, are being murdered. And it seemed like it was starting with the cops out here murdering innocent young men and women. Now we've gotten to where regular civilian people, where so-called friends are murdering their so-called friends. So we have to realize and wake up, man. You cannot be caught in situations where Big Day.
Yeah, can you hear me?
I can hear you. Yeah, so we just got to realize, man, and wake up. We cannot be getting caught in situations where it's just one of us, when we're involved or we're partying or we're hanging out with a group of white folks. So Dave, I know you having a few technical difficulties, man. Let everybody know what you got on your mind. It's Freestyle Friday. If you got anything else you want to talk about, let's talk about it.
Well, man, we hit it on the dot with all this, man. What all I can say to it is, man, we got to get better with watching out for one another and quit calling these people friends that's not friends. If these people you didn't grow up with all your life, these are not your real friends. And some parents got to step up and just tell their kids no, because they still kids. But other than that, man, I have nothing else to talk about with that. You got anything else you want to discuss?
I'm gonna end it with, yeah, I do got one other thing that I want to talk about, man. I've been watching this, and this has been talked about on social media a lot today. What's going on with all these, with the Caucasians, man. They hate us so much. They talk about our skin color so much, but what's been going on social media, man, is they taking these melanin drops, trying to pretty much get their color to look black. So what's going on with that, man? This is an epidemic. I've been listening to a lot of videos where they're doing injections, they're taking drops that they can put in their drinks, to increase their melanin. So my
Well,
my question to you is, why do you think whites are trying to get darker when back in the past they hated the way that our skin looked on us. Now they're trying to get the same skin that we got, but through injections and through pills.
that's because we look good, man. We look good. Black don't crack. Black don't crack, man. Long as you
Roscoe
take care
said
of
you're fucking
yourself.
retarded. I'm not fucking retarded. That's a fact. You got whites that's taking
Yeah.
motherfucking what do you call that? There's melanin based. They're taking needles that have melanin in it. They're taking injections with melanin, pretty
So
much
they
to
trying to
to
kill.
make
So
their
they trying to
yeah
kill.
to
So they
get a
trying to
darker
kill
look.
themselves.
Yeah, pretty much, and that's what's happening. These motherfuckers are pretty much taking these injections, killing themselves, trying to look black. And this motherfucker said I'm
Well,
retarded, by saying that when this is actual fact.
well, let's keep it real. Let's keep it real. Let's keep it real.
And this same motherfucker who
Kylie,
making that comment, I guarantee you, he's
no,
probably taking melanin shots him damn self.
right. Kylie Jenner. Kylie Jenner. She took the stuff to make her lips plump and fat. You know what I'm saying? Everybody wants what we have. We have charisma, we have style, the way we dance, the way we move. and we smarter than what they say we are. That's why they fought so hard to keep us from learning how to
Are
read.
you white? Roscoe 4120. Roscoe said I'm blacker than you. So are you taking the pills or are you taking the injections?
Um, I think that's sad to do put poison in your body to try to be something you're not.
Yeah, the hip crop, the hypocrisy of whites, you know, always from judging us of our skin. Now they're taking injections and they're taking liquid things that they can put in. Pretty much it's like I forget the name of these tablets that they're taking, some type of peptides or something that they're taking to make their skin look darker. It's crazy, but you guys hated us for the way that our skin looked. Now you guys are taking injections, melanin injections. That's
They
crazy.
never hate. You know what? They never hated how our skin looked. They was jealous.
Yeah, I mean, pretty much that's the sound of it. So that's pretty
Well, I
much
mean,
what we're summing it up to be.
they was jealous, bro.
Yep, and I'm gonna
They
read
was
out a comment.
jealous.
James Sanders said the sun is eating them alive. Oh, that's a fact. Every time whites go outside, the sun is trying to kill them. He said down here in Texas, we are 100 plus. We were born with our protection, and that's a fact. And they realize that. They realize that they don't have natural protection from the sun. That's why they go out and try to tan year long. But now a lot of these scientists have come out with these melanin injections that they can take or you can put in your food that makes them look like they've been tanning. But really at the end of the day, it makes them
Hey, they
look
better
like they're
stick to the
orange.
tanning booths in the beach.
He said Roscoe 4120 said white is right. But Roscoe, you must really don't know the real history of your people. For him to say white is
I
right.
wouldn't
So are
even.
you
I
getting the
wouldn't
melanin
even.
shots, Roscoe? He said, did
Hey,
Popeyes come
listen.
out
I
with a
wouldn't
new
even
chicken salad?
explain.
They probably did. Because if I'm not mistaken, whites like chicken more than blacks do. That's a stereotype, and you guys got to get out of that. And that's the whole thing with this swimming thing that we were talking about. We got to get out of that stereotype.
Well,
Because
I
most
mean,
blacks
dang,
can swim. It's just that most blacks that
dang,
I'm just going
really.
to be honest. Most blacks that I went to school with knew how to swim. I think in this new age, this new
Well,
era,
but
most of these blacks are being lazy and not taking advantage of having these swimming classes in school.
well, actually, it's not a stereotype. A lot of us just don't know how to swim, man. Because you'll be amazed. I was a fill-in lifeguard, a reserve lifeguard at 17 years old, and like I said, how I learned how to swim was we was at Post Middle School in Detroit. What up, though? We was at Post Middle School and
This Roscoe,
playing
not
with
to
the
cut you off,
girls.
Dave. This Roscoe 4120 says, stop blaming white people for your bad decisions. We're not blaming whites at all for our bad decisions. We're talking facts. It's been a lot of blacks dying in the hands of their so-called white friends. So give me your thoughts and your opinion on that, Roscoe. You cannot deny what's been going on throughout the country. We've been finding a lot of black folks with these so-called white friends, coming up in fucked up situations like losing their lives or coming up hanging from trees and things like that. You got to be. We have to be real about this situation. I'm not race baiting at all. Roscoe 4120 said I'm race baiting. This is not
Well,
race
hey,
baiting. Go
look,
go and
man.
look at your local news and see what's going on throughout the country. Only thing that we're doing, we're just trying to inform our people of what's been going on. You've been having too
Dan,
many people dying in the hands of their so-called white friends. Go ahead, Dave.
not to cut you off, bro. I wouldn't give him no play. I wouldn't even respond to him. Let him comment to himself because he know what's going on. He's being ignorant right now because he's trying to get under your skin. I wouldn't
Oh,
give
he'll
him
never
no
get up
play.
under my
I wouldn't
skin. I
even
got
say
time
his
today. I'm gonna give
name.
him the smoke. And Viking King said, "Why so many blacks men voted for Trump?" Because a lot of people thought that he probably would come in and make a difference, and with their situation. He made a difference with the car industry. So at the end of the day, a lot of people, thought that
He
he would
ain't
come in and
who
just
made
try
a
to
difference
hold
with the car
America down
industry?
and keep his word on what he was trying to do.
Who?
Trump. Somebody asked a question about
Trump
why did
Trump
so many
ain't made
people
no
vote, so
difference
many
with shit.
blacks vote for Trump.
Man, Trump ain't made no difference with nothing. Trump is an idiot and he don't know nothing he doing or talking about right now. At the end of the day, we know what's going on in this world. We see it every day. We hear it every day. It's all over social media. And anybody that would deny that is an ignorant fool. Because at the end of the day, I wouldn't give him no play at all. Because at the end of the day, he's not a fool. He's looking at the news. He's on social media. He's listening to us right now. He knows what's going on.
Oh yeah, he
And
most
it's
definitely know
people
what's
like
going on. You
him.
know, it's been too many stories about blacks been dying basically in the hands of their while being in the hands of their white friends. Out camping, out swimming, out going to these festivals. Like I said, I just did a story on what was this man named Lon Harper. He went to a Michigan festival, went out there, performed a dancing act, and later on that night, actually the next day, they found this man pretty much hanging outside of his tent. Who would do some shit like that? Blacks are not hanging themselves.
Like I
So pretty
said,
much what we're doing, man, we're just doing our due diligence and just keeping these stories alive, alerting our people on what's going on, because what's going on is what's really going on. You have a lot of these so-called white friends that's been watching their black friends die in the company of these so-called white friends. With the whole Nolan Ryan, I mean not
eh,
Nolan, Nolan Wells situation. This young man, went out on a trip on the 4th of July with a group of his white friends and never came back. Go ahead, Big Dave.
you know what I'm getting sick and tired of? And I'm just gonna be real, and I don't give a damn who like it. You know what I'm sick and tired of? That we always gotta explain ourselves when we're trying to look out for our own people. Every time we try to look out for our own and just let them be aware of what's going on based on what we see that's facts, we got to turn around and explain ourselves to what we're trying to do. We ain't got to explain ourselves to no damn body.
See, and it's
Because
almost, I'm gonna
anybody
be
that
honest, David, it
know
ain't like we
this,
explaining ourselves. We're just trying to what I'm doing is I'm just trying to put the awareness out to my people of what's going on. I'm not spraying this shit to these racist white motherfuckers, because they know what's going on. They've been watching the news. There's been too many blacks that's been dying pretty much in the company of their so-called white friends, or just going to these festivals, and a lot of them been just coming back with black folks being hung. What the fuck is going on out there? We are not hanging ourselves. Most black folks don't even know how to tie a fucking tie, let alone tie a noose to be able to hang themselves. You just had a black woman who went out, who drove from Michigan all the way down to Florida during Juneteenth, and this young woman found herself hung the next day. Out there celebrating. You know what I mean? So this is
yeah,
not a coincidence that's going on, Dave. This is, like I said, we're systematically one by one, being murdered.
yeah, just like the guy in Michigan up north. He went to a festival where it was 98% saltines. 98%. And he thought it was okay to be there. And when they seen him, a mob of whites, man, almost beat him to death. They beat him so bad they cut his neck 2 or 3 times like they was trying to cut his head off. So, like I keep saying to black folks, and I'm just gonna keep it real again, Dane. Quit going where you're not wanted, thinking it's safe when you're outnumbered.
Yeah, and I don't know how many times we got to continue saying this, when we've been saying this pretty much for the last few months. If you're the only Lone Star, you may not want to find yourself on this trip or this vacation with your white friends, because now it's not a time and a place to be finding yourself alone with your white friends, because we see what's been going on throughout the country. This is not a coincidence, you guys. This is what's really going on. So my job is to come on here, talk about this, keep you guys informed, and it's up to you, to go forward and make your decision on this. A lot of people have been making a lot of bad decisions. So I'm trying to read out a lot of these comments. Rick Puppy Sandmore said, anyone saying black or right, anyone, yeah, anyone, but we've been talking about the blacks that's been coming up, suspiciously hanging, dead, or drowning, with this whole Nolan Wells situation. This young man, and I want to give my condolence to this young man, mom and dad again. Only thing they want is the answers, and that's the only thing that most of these blacks, that's the only thing that we want. We want true answers, and we just want to raise awareness of what's been going on out here. Blacks have black people, men and women, have been dying in the hands of their white friends, and that's a fact. This is nothing that we're just trying to make up or just trying to put out. We have to raise awareness about that. Because imagine if whites were dying in the hands of their black friends, this would be, this would be all over the mainstream media.
It'll be an outrage. And they
Outrage.
won't be covering it up in the news. They won't be covering it up and making it sound like it's not that serious. It will be an outrage.
Yeah, and the same thing with this the Nolan Wells situation. If the shoe was on the other foot and it was one white boy that traveled out to an island with a group of black folks and he ended up dead, don't you think by now those so-called friends would have been interrogated or arrested, by now, so this just lets you know that,
No,
there's a
they would
lot
have
of
been
white
in
privilege
jail.
going on with this case. They're definitely covering up, but it's getting ready. Like I said, that they're getting ready to go to the grand jury with this. So these so-called friends will be indicted and we will get some type of questions at least, if not, get some type of answers, I should say, out of this situation with them being questioned. But I need for you guys to like, comment, subscribe, and share. You guys, as you know, we are closing down on 1K subscribers. We're less than 50 away. And I cannot do it without you guys hitting that button. Skeeter Man 218, what up, though? I got a lot of comments coming through. I'm trying to read them all, and I can't read them all. But yeah, at the end of the day, man, what we're doing over here is just raising awareness on what's going on. These are the facts. These are stories that's been on the news. This is something that we're not making it up. You have been, like I said, there's been a lot of black people that's been dying, while being, in the company of their white friends, and this is a fact, so we have to continue doing our due diligence talking about this, especially with this Nolan Wells situation. And I want to thank, all the podcasters out there that's been talking about these situations and keeping all these things alive, because, the mainstream media is not doing that. They're not talking about that. Like I said, we just had a young man, 37-year-old Lon Harper, who lost his life. He was hung, and no one's talking about that at all. You just had a young black boy who lost his life, who was swimming with two white boys. They drowned him. And they tried to cover this up. So
Well,
that's what's been going on around the country, Big Dave.
They good with covering stuff up, and they've been doing this from the beginning of time, man. And they're gonna keep doing it because they have the news stations, they have the TV, they have the judges. So this is gonna keep happening until we wake up and understand what's going on. Just like is a guy that was a police officer, 24-year-old kid. I forget his name, from Roger, Arkansas, but he went 10 hours from where he lived with his fiance and three other people. And I'm just assuming they're white because in Roger, Arkansas, where he graduated in his police academy, the picture was nothing but white cops around him. He was the only black, and he was looking like, why am I here? So I can only assume who he was with on that boat when he came up missing and drowned. But nobody else on the boat and blacks don't get on canoes.
Right.
What
And I'm
black
sitting here
go
looking at all
canoe?
these racist comments. You got a guy called Viking King. He actually, I put one. He said, "Prove that he was lynched." We don't have to prove that the young man that I was talking about at the festival. They tried to hang this young man. He ended up surviving. You can see his neck basically was almost hanging off from a failed hanging. You know what I mean? So most of the young men that we've talked about, they were successful hangings. This was Lon Harper was one out of the few men that survived his hanging, so yeah, man, it's been a lot of things that's been swept up under the rug, that the mainstream media is not talking about, that most most podcasters like me have been putting out there in the forefront for people to know about, so like again, I want to give my shout out to all the podcasters that has spoke about these stories, kept all these stories alive, because the mainstream media is not talking about these situations, so therefore we have to do our due diligence at warning and keeping people advised of what's going on out here in society. Yep. So Dave, look, give me your last thoughts, man, on this. I'm not gonna hold you long. I know you've been having a few technical difficulties, but give everybody your last thoughts and let everybody know where they can reach you.
I'm gonna just say it again, man. Parents have to be mindful where they let their children go. They have to investigate it a little bit more. And the minute you find out that they're going with some saltines and it's just your child and three or four of them, don't let them go unless they're going with the neighborhood of kids they grew up with, so to be even. But at the end of the day, we got to get smarter in protecting one another and watching over each other. And that's what I got to say. We got to do better. And y'all can get with me on YouTube, Instagram, TikTok, Real Talk with WIT Big Dave, and on Facebook, Big Dave Crawford. I'm
Make
putting
sure
out a
y'all get
lot
over
of
to his.
content.
Yep, and make sure y'all get over there to his channel and subscribe. I want to read out a few comments. I got at Victory V7 in. He said, I grew up with black friends. No one's talking about black people killing blacks. Why? Because you're full of BS and you know it. No, that's not
What
true,
that
because we
got to do
recently just
with
did a
it?
show talking about black on black crimes. So that's where you're wrong at. And I want to read his name out again. Victory 7. No, we talk about that. We talk about so-called black on black crimes, all the time. We just were talking about a situation where we had here in Detroit where there were two different mall shootings, and it was involved with black on black crime. So yes, we do talk about that all the time, but right now we're talking about white on black crime. You know what I mean? And it's been a disgrace. And you guys basically should be talking out and spreading awareness too, because you got to be a fool to not realize what's been going on, in these cases that we've been talking about. It's been a lot of black folks coming up dead, coming up
Yeah.
missing, hanging out, or being in the company of their white friends, and that's a fact.
Hey, Dane,
Go ahead.
asked him this.
He hear you.
Why come one white person can go hang with three blacks and he can go home to his mama and daddy?
Listen,
But the
that's a
minute we
fact, and
go
you
with
just hit
one
it
of
right on the
them,
nose.
we
You're
don't make it
see,
home.
exactly. See, and that's the difference. Anytime you never hear stories about white folks going out partying and hanging with black folks and they're not making it home. You never hear about that, but we've been hearing about this a lot all year long. You know what I mean? So that's the difference. Whites with blacks, we're not going out trying to harm you guys. If anything, we try to make it to the point where we're overly protecting you guys, trying to make sure that you guys make it back home safe. These guys are not doing that in these situations. When you're hearing about these cases, when it's dealing with black folks that's hanging out with their white friends. So you just got to be honest, man. We talked about plenty of cases like the young black woman who went to a sleepover with her white friends and they found her dead the next day. Nothing was done about that.
Well,
And like I just said, you just had two young men that was drowned by two white boys and they tried to cover it up.
oh yeah,
So
you
this
talk
is
about
a
the one
systematic
it took
thing
them
that's
a
been
year. You
going
talk
on,
about the
man.
one it
Whites got
took
to
them a
realize
year.
what's going on, and what their people is doing, and and just really keep it real. Because they're not being real about the situation. So we have to keep it real with ourselves and realize, what's been going on to our people. And, you cannot, again, and I'm going to say this again, you cannot be the only lone star, when you're hanging around a group of white folks, because I don't know what's been going on with this month. We don't know if it's a ritual thing going on, but it's been a lot of drownings that's been going on. Taylor Public Housing, he talked about that. It got to be some type of ritual thing that's going on with all these hangings and these drownings.
Well, I mean, in the beginning of the show, I said that we got to clean up what we do, but the show ain't about what we do to each other. The show is about what they're doing to us. And people always trying to change the conversation. You did. They're always trying to change the narrative of the conversation because they want to switch something around and get us angry. They can't get us angry because we're telling facts and they don't want to hear the facts. The saltines are attacking and murdering us. And it's going to have to stop. And we're going to have to put a stop to it by not playing their game.
Yeah, because you got to be a fool to not realize what's going on. And to all the white peoples that's in the comments and just saying the things, these racist things that they're saying, that just lets you know that you are a racist. For you not to, really realize what's going on throughout the country with, blacks losing their lives due to the hands of white folks. You have to be a racist. And then I'm gonna read this comment that Vic7 said. He said again, no matter what color you are, no look at you. I'm trying to read this is how he spelled it. He said again, no matter what color you are, no look at you, not you color man. I didn't understand that part, but look, man, at the end of the day, man, look, blacks got to realize that, you cannot relax when in the company and being in a group of white folks, because like I said, I was in college, I found myself at a raid with a group of white folks, and I listen, it got to the point because we, at the end of the day, when white folks drink, they like to play games. And if you're the only Lone Star, you're going to be part of that game that they like to play. And I guarantee you, most of these blacks that found that lost their lives were part of that game that they were playing, So you got to realize, man, you cannot be around a group of white folks, especially when they're drinking and you're the only Lone Star. Trust me, trust and believe that, take it from most of these blacks who's lost their life dealing with their so-called white friends, and it's not a race thing. It's just about, just being real about the situation, about what's going on. I'm not race baiting or trying to incite anything. I'm just trying to inform people of what's going on. And these supposed to have been so-called friends.
Well,
Dave. So look, man, it's definitely been a good conversation. It's been a good talk. We're definitely going to have more conversations and more talks about this, because this has been an ongoing situation, with the whole Nola Wells situation. What can you guys say about how they tried to hide this young man's lungs? They didn't send most of his throat cavity down there to be inspected by the second autopsy. It's just a lot of bullshit that's been going on, and at the end of the day, only thing that, most blacks want is, to be
justice.
Transparent about the situation and just, really, get down to the bottom of what's really going on. And that's it.
I just know this. If it, they working so hard to cover this up because they're dirty. The devil stay working, and you can't trust the devil.
Okay, I'm gonna read this. I'm gonna read this comment out. Captain Ridiculous said to call someone a racist for not kissing the ass of a narrative that they don't support is wild. I did not call. I don't think I called you a racist. I called the other guy a racist for the comment that he made. Because for him to make that comment, he's basically not realizing or not been watching the news, or he's been hiding up under a rock to not understand what we're talking about and what's been going on to blacks around the country. So I don't know if I didn't technically call you a racist, Captain Ridiculous, but if the shoe fits,
ask him, Dane. Ask him.
They can hear you.
No, well, apparently you must be a damn racist to even come with that type of comment, because you heard exactly what he said. If you was intelligent enough to know so.
Yeah, so at the end of the day, man, I try to read most of the comments, a lot of the comments that come through, and he just made another comment. He said it's time we stop looking at color and start looking at ourselves and how we and you behave. It's time to stop looking at color. When we going to stop that. Yeah, at the end of the day, I'm gonna be honest. Most blacks, when they're hanging out with whites, or just most blacks, we don't even look at you guys as color. We look at you guys as friends for what you are. It's you guys that put this color boundary on everything anyway. So at the end of the day, it's you guys who have to, take a look in the mirror.
Well, I don't like saltines. I don't care. I don't like the ones that don't like me. Fuck them, because they met the right one. Because if they with me somewhere and they do some weak shit, they gonna get what they gonna get. And at the end of the day, and they ain't promoting violence. Y'all coming on this man's show with all these whack comments. You're lucky it ain't mine, because I wouldn't reply to none of you because you're full of it. Y'all know what he just said.
You're right, but today I got all the smoke, and like I said, I try to, welcome all the comments, but when they say things like that, I have no problem reading them out and giving my thoughts on that on their comment, but at the end of the day, only thing we were trying to do is talk about, reality of what's been going on. It's been a lot of blacks coming up, drowning, dead by hangings, why in the company of their white friends, you know. So we're just trying to, you know, put this out there so our people can travel accordingly, you know, or move accordingly. You know what I mean? So at the end of the day, man, look, you know, this is a reality of what's going on. We have to be cautious. We have to be careful when we're traveling amongst a group of white folks. You know what I mean? Because you're not hearing white folks dying when they're traveling with blacks at all. You know, so if you heard that, you know, you guys would not be saying, you guys would not be singing the same song if the shoe was on the other foot. You know, so
People
that's
don't
all
like
we're
to
trying.
hear.
Yeah,
People don't
go ahead,
like
Dave.
to
My
hear the
bad.
truth. People don't
Yeah,
like to hear the truth. And the minute you start talking facts and start talking the truth, people get mad. They start saying all kinds of stuff that don't have nothing to do with nothing. The truth is the truth, facts is the facts. We wouldn't be talking about this if Nolan Wells was still alive. We wouldn't be talking about this if the girl that went to Florida was still alive. We wouldn't be talking about this if the woman that went to the slumber party was still alive. We wouldn't be talking
exactly.
about this.
Yeah, you know, we wouldn't be talking about this if, you know, most of these black uh, people that died that was hanging out with their white friends, we wouldn't be talking about that if they would have not died. You know, so I'm gonna read out a few comments they're coming through. Here, let me try to back that one up because it was a good comment that he made. He said it was a young black man that pretty much was walking throughout the country, and he was profiled. I can't find that comment. Let me try to back that up. You know, but yeah, man, that's just basically here it is right here. You know, so that just shows, you know, that no matter what we do, that we're always going to be profiled, we're going to be singled out. You know, and at the end of the day, man, this killing, these hangings, this shit has really never stopped. You know, just really the mainstream media has brought it you know, to everyone's attention. You know, this shit kind of remind me of the Jim Crow days. And that's what's pretty much what's been going on. But I want to read this comment by James Shiner. He said, "White folks are calling out white folks because of this. They are even speaking out against a few of the black trolls. They hate when you defend your own people." Yeah, you know, and I agree. You know, but you know, the real honest, good white people will speak out about this bullshit that's been going on. It's just the racist whites that will, you know, try to, you know, talk bad on what we're talking about. And the only thing we're talking about is just trying to speak awareness of what's been going on throughout the country. There has been a lot of black folks dying in the hands of their so-called white friends, you know, and this should be, you know, alarm should have been rung. You know, the mainstream media should be talking about this every day. You know, it should be what's the word that I'm looking for? And I'm trying to find the exact word, but it should be and I can't even find the word, but I'll come back to that. But yeah, at the end of the day, there's nothing wrong with you know, with us speaking up, trying to alert our people. We're going to continue doing that. And like I said, at the end of the day, I want to thank all all the podcasters that have spoke about a lot of these cases that we're talking about and kept all these cases alive, because the mainstream media is not doing their job. They don't care about our lives. They're not doing anything to keep these stories alive, or pretty much just trying to inform the people on what's going on, you know. So we have to continue doing our job. So Dave, I want to thank you for coming on the show. I want to thank for everybody who made comments. I want to thank everybody who subscribed and continue to hit that button. Your boy is less than 50 subscribers away from 1K. You know, that's a you know, a goal that we set out 2 years ago, and we are there. You know, so look, I want to thank everybody who made a comment. I want to thank Big Dave who came on the show. It's been another one. It's your boy Dame D. And y'all guys be safe out there, you know, when dealing with your so-called white friends. We are out. Peace.
Peace.